Oh, hi there. Welcome to Bimbo YouTube. My name is Kristen. I'm just kidding. I'm not going to talk that way the whole video. I couldn't do it if I wanted to. Welcome to my channel. My name is Kristen, and today I'm in costume because I'm really trying to live the life of the subject I'm talking about today, and that is the concept of the bimbo and the way that it's changed over time. Kristen, why are you talking to me about bimbos today, you might ask? Why are you dressed like that? Why did you go crazy with your makeup and put on your crappy blonde wig? Well, you see, the bimbo has arisen in popularity among Generation Z and younger millennials on social media, specifically TikTok. And this iteration of the idea of the bimbo is really interesting to me, and so I want to talk about it. I want to talk about where the word came from originally, how we got here, and what I think it means. So strap in and let's get to it. The word bimbo entered American slang in the 1920s. It's derived from the Italian word bambino, which means male baby or male child, and it was actually originally used as an insult against men. If a man was called a bimbo, it basically meant that he was unintelligent or brutish in some way. This word was also applied to women somewhat, but originally it was a word about men. In the 20s and 30s, the word was used about both genders. You can see examples of it in certain songs and silent movies. And then in the 40s, again, it was still used against both genders. But by, I want to say 1929 or so, the Oxford English Dictionary defined bimbo as a woman. So at some point in its early usage, it kind of became a word about women. Then, as time went on, the word went out of fashion until the 1980s and 1990s. In the late 1980s, Church Secretary Jessica Hahn accused televangelist Jim Bakker of, and this woman, based on her appearance alone, was vilified in the media and depicted as a bimbo. This criticism was based pretty much entirely on her appearance, and it was used to discredit her and dismiss her report of being raped by this pastor, this televangelist. In 1987, she told Playboy magazine, "I am not a bimbo. I know that's what I've been depicted as, but that I am not what they've made me out to be. I am not someone without thoughts or feelings or explanations." And I'm paraphrasing, but that's more or less what she said. The way that her response to being called a bimbo included emphasizing that she's a human with thoughts and emotions and explanations, in my opinion, really underscores the way that this word bimbo was used in a derogatory fashion towards women, in a way that strips them of their humanity and justifies abuse of women. The word bimbo appeared again in the 1990s during the Bill Clinton sex scandals, which were dubbed the bimbo eruptions. As you can see, over time, despite the word originally being used to describe an unintelligent man or woman, over time the word has become more and more associated to women, and it has become more and more derogatory. The word became more and more associated with femininity and with sexualized femininity, as well as lack of intelligence. This word, because of how much it was associated with women, they actually had to create new words to describe men that used to be called bimbos. Now they're himbos, or mimbos, or male bimbos. So that's interesting. You've seen the bimbo in media. She is Marilyn Monroe in How to Marry a Millionaire, Karen Smith in Mean Girls, Anna Faris's character in House Bunny. Even Jessica Simpson and Paris Hilton can be thought of as having played a sort of bimbo archetype on their reality TV shows. A more modern incarnation of the bimbo, in my opinion, appears in Legally Blonde, where Elle Woods is a woman who very deeply loves her femininity and loves all things girly and doesn't mind getting dressed up sexy and appealing to the male gaze, but at the same time, she has a very sharp legal mind and is very committed to her values and chasing her ambitions. In this movie, it sort of flips the whole idea of a bimbo on its head. The image of a capable, intelligent woman who also embraces femininity and loves being girly and beautiful was very resonant with audiences, and that's why this movie has still been popular into the 2020s. Her ability to maintain her grasp on high femme presentation while also keeping the ability to chase her ambitions was really powerful, and in my opinion still is. Now, without getting a little too explicit, I do want to talk about the way that bimbo has been used in the last 5 years or so. There is a genre of media that aims to provide pleasure to its viewers, where a woman character who is a bimbo, meaning she is kind of vapid, unintelligent, and she just looks like, large breasts, tiny waist, blonde hair, very concerned with male attention. This concept is a specific genre of a certain type of media. And in this genre of media, the bimbo character is a woman who becomes more and more highly feminized and highly sexualized and seeks more and more male attention while losing her ability to think about anything else. And this kind of archetype in that media became popular on social media when women portrayed this bimbo character, performed this bimbo character on their social media accounts for their audiences. And so there's a very large community of women, many of them, not all of them, who portray this bimbo lifestyle and this bimbo image to gratify their viewers. These bimbo content creators have a veritable community online of supportive women who lift each other up and encourage each other as they pursue their body modifications or other beautification procedures to become more bimbofied or whatever. Some people might argue that the act of portraying bimbohood online is in and of itself feminist because someone is doing what they want with their bodies and their images. And I don't know that it's not feminist, but I would question that statement. In my opinion, not everything has to be feminist. Not everything a feminist does has to be feminist. It's okay to hold feminist values and still want to do something that isn't necessarily the most feminist thing in the world. I think that's fine, and I think that's a good thing to just contain multitudes and do your own thing and not feel like because you have a certain label attached to you, you have to live a certain way or act a certain way or dress a certain way. As a feminist, I want people to dress how they want, wear the makeup they want, have the online personas that they want, and I want them to do that freely without somebody judging or criticizing them. But at the same time, I don't have to call that a feminist action, right? I think it's important to analyze what something is for, what the origins of something is, and kind of just both sides of an issue before you go declare something as being a feminist act, if that makes sense. I would say the feminist action is actually the community that bimbo creators have and the way that they support and promote, not judging people just based on how they look or what kinds of body modifications they pursue. I wouldn't necessarily say the body modifications themselves and the appearances themselves are feminist, but more so their approach to the way they treat other women and they treat each other is feminist. So out of this kind of bimbo content creators, more work adjacent bimbo content creators, came a meme called the Bimboification Meme. It evokes that image that I'm sure you've seen of man's evolution, where it starts with an ape, and then you have, another type of ape that looks more human, and so on until you have a fully standing upright human. So this Bimboification meme, it evokes the image of human evolution that I'm sure you've seen. I'll put a picture up on the screen of one of the versions of this image where it has an ape transitioning all the way to being a human. And it kind of shows that forward momentum of evolution by showing the different stages. The Bimboification meme is that, except it's essentially a brunette college student at the beginning. You know, she's got a backpack and a book. And then as the stages go on, she becomes more and more of a bimbo. Her pants become a skirt, her skirt gets shorter, her hair gets blonder, her skin gets tanner, and she loses the book in the backpack. And so this bimboification meme, which was originally part of a blog, I think. I believe this bimboification meme came out of the community originally, but it made its way into the popular lexicon and became just a meme that a lot of people had seen. And so there are a lot of variations of the meme created. Some of them just played it straight. They uncritically recreated the meme. Some of them turned the meme around. They showed the bimbo and the nerd from the beginning dating, being girlfriends, which I thought was cute. There are some that use the bimbo meme to illustrate other evolutions that a person might go through. And I'm not going to show all those memes because honestly, they're not safe for work necessarily. But so this meme though, this bimboification meme, brought the bimbo out of just the bimbo communities and into the popular consciousness. And that laid the groundwork for what happened in 2020 with the bimbo trend, which I am currently trying to embody, probably kind of poorly. In 2020, we've seen the word bimbo take on another meaning, thanks to internet users, mostly Generation Z, some young millennials, who have adopted the word bimbo and the aesthetic of the bimbo, being like very high femme, highly sexualized, and they have adopted that aesthetic for themselves, and they've created a bit of a community around the aesthetic. In many ways, their actions have been a reclamation of the word bimbo, because as established earlier, it really was used in a very degrading, dehumanizing way against women. And so now young women identifying as bimbos and kind of dressing to embody the bimbo, it's an act of reclamation, of reclaiming something. Young women are reclaiming the word bimbo by dressing high femme and highly sexual, speaking in a more bimbo way. Like this, they're talking like this. And they're reclaiming bimbo by dressing in this way, really embodying the bimbo while creating content that satirizes capitalism, consumerism, and sexism. TikTok user
Bunny the Bimbo
put this whole reclamation idea really concisely, and she kind of inspired a lot of this video.
What I love about like the neo bimbo cultural kind of movement that I've seen, at least on here, is that there's these tenets of us not judging other women, but also this idea that, I don't know, for me at least, it feels like bimbo culture, and maybe I'm thinking too hard about it, maybe I'm being too academic about it, but it's almost like making fun of this idea of femininity that patriarchy has like put in place for us, and just putting it to such extremes that it's almost, you know, it's making fun of the way that men want to view us, but also we're taking part and pleasure in it, so it's once again ours. Femininity is being reclaimed by bimbos, and I love that.
A self-described TikTok bimbo is, if she's not a member of that genre I mentioned earlier, which is still thriving, it still exists, she is likely to be pro-Black Lives Matter, pro-choice, a feminist, and in general will hold progressive or leftist values. Let's look at an example of the kind of content being created by bimbo TikTokers. Here I'm going to show you Chrissy Klepeka. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right. It's her ad. I'll put her ad on the screen so you can tell. But here's one of her TikToks, or part of one of her TikToks.
Who is the Gen Z bimbo? A bimbo isn't dumb. I mean, she kind of is, but she isn't that dumb. She's actually a radical leftist who's pro-sex work, pro-Black Lives Matter, pro-LGBTQ, pro-choice, and will always be there for her girls, gays, and nays. If you're homophobic, I'll castrate you. I don't do this for the misogynistic male gaze. I do it for my gaze. And damn, my tits look good.
They make content in the bimbo aesthetic and in their bimbo persona, but many times the content promotes a leftist ideal. such as promoting anti-racism, or promoting women's rights, or promoting trans rights. And by co-opting this image that was given to us by the patriarchy and embracing it, while also rejecting the values that are also pushed on us with that image, can be very radical, in my opinion. The bimbo movement at its core seems to take the tools given to us by patriarchy and use them to create an image of ourselves that we like, that we find attractive, while also maintaining our core values. It's a way of saying, I can be conventionally attractive, and in fact, I can be a caricature of conventional attractiveness without it having anything to do with you, the viewer. It can be about me. And I can do all of that while still holding my values and promoting what I think is important. It's saying I don't have to choose between aesthetic and my values. There is a spacey and airheaded vibe that is purposefully given off by bimbo content creators on TikTok, members of the bimbo movement. And I believe that this intentional creation of a sort of airhead character on camera allows creators to get the viewer's guard down and help them be a little more susceptible to the message that is being conveyed. Additionally, it serves to kind of draw in the male viewer and then sort of maybe shock him a little bit with what actually comes out of the girl's mouth, or what the caption on the screen is, despite her image. Even though the bimbo aesthetic does play into traditional patriarchal views of women and the roles they fill, it does so in a transgressive way. It actually reminds me a lot of Legally Blonde and Elle Woods, the way that her character really did embody the idea of what a bimbo is. Somebody who's, she's a dumb blonde, she's a party girl, sorority girl, going off to chase her ex-boyfriend and try to win him back. Like, that is the typical bimbo kind of stereotype. But then we see this girl go on a journey to discover that she's actually very bright and that law is something she's good at. And throughout her journey in the movie, we see her maintain her commitment to her femininity and her beauty while also pursuing her career. In fact, in Legally Blonde, when Elle Woods wins the court case towards the end of the movie, she's only able to do so because of her commitment to femininity and to conventional beauty. It is her knowledge of the practices that people engage in to maintain beauty that allows her to find a hole in the story of the defendant that she's interrogating, and is what allows her to realize that her client is innocent. Were she not committed to her high femme presentation and her bimbohood, she wouldn't have won the case. So the theme of that movie is really like, not only is it okay to be like a dumb blonde or a bimbo if you want to be, it also doesn't mean that you can't also be a highly capable, highly intelligent person. In fact, it might be the key to your success. The Gen Z TikTokers who lead the bimbo movement online, while they were babies, toddlers, or even unborn when Legally Blonde came out, so they aren't necessarily referencing Legally Blonde here. But I think the fact that in their early lives, or right before they were born, we had a protagonist character who was allowed to be a bimbo and also a highly functional, highly intelligent woman, that makes sense that movie existed, and that the generation who possibly grew up on that movie might create this aesthetic and this movement, because they've received messages their whole lives that a woman can be a bimbo and also be intelligent and have her values and promote ideals. Combine that with the fact that in the last 5 years, the rise of the bimbo influencer and the bimboification meme that kind of made its way out of communities into common consciousness, popularized the word bimbo and just the concept of the bimbo, as opposed to the dumb blonde or the prima donna or some other word. It actually makes sense that bimbo is the word that was chosen. Specifically, the memification of the bimbo through the bimboification meme made this concept of the bimbo something that can be ever-changing and something that is on the minds of people online. regardless of if they're into the bimbo community. So it doesn't surprise me that bimbo has not only been reclaimed as an aesthetic, but also as a way to promote progressive values. So I have a few questions that I kind of want to pose and try to answer about this whole thing. One is, a lot of online bimbos are anti-capitalist. So in theory, they would be anti-consumerism. And I think they are. I think you can be anti-consumerist and also have this aesthetic. But there is something to consider and think about, because adopting a whole new aesthetic, you know, getting fake nails, buying makeup products, coloring your hair, buying new clothes, that does require a certain amount of consumerism. Now, on the other hand, I wouldn't say that requires any more consumerism than adopting any other aesthetic. And we don't know how quickly somebody builds up their bimbo wardrobe or how quickly somebody buys new makeup. So adopting this aesthetic does not necessarily mean somebody can't be anti-capitalist. However, if you're somebody who is interested in the aesthetic, but you're also anti-capitalist, just keep in mind the way that you build your wardrobe and the way that you buy your makeup, because you don't want to accidentally feed too much into consumerism more than you already have to, because you have to wear clothes of some kind. You're going to have to buy clothes at some point, but you don't want to buy like way more clothes than you need to, or start feeding into fast fashion and buying new clothes for every single trend cycle. So that's one thing to think about. I don't think that being anti-capitalist and adopting the bimbo aesthetic are mutually exclusive. I just think it's possible that you might run into some competing priorities if you aren't being careful. My final sort of question to ask here is the 2020 bimbo movement a progressive feminist movement? To that, personally, I would say I don't know. I think that the values espoused by members of the bimbo movement are themselves quite feminist. As I said earlier about the members of kind of the bimbo community, I don't know that the act of dressing as a bimbo and talking like a bimbo is in and of itself feminist. I think what's more feminist is the words coming out of people's mouths and the way that communities form to lift up fellow creators and support one another. I don't think it really matters if dressing up like a bimbo specifically is feminist. Like, I don't think everything you do has to be feminist, even if you are an avowed feminist. I just don't think you have to, every little thing you do has to be feminist, because like what, is eating breakfast feminist? Is it feminist to sleep? No, those are just things people do. So the way you dress doesn't have to be feminist either. I know that some people will say it's anti-feminist to dress in this way that caters to the male gaze, but I disagree. Women and any AFAB people have been socialized in a way that prioritizes femininity and prioritizes pleasing the male gaze. And so it's not really a surprise when women and AFAB people, or non-women, find the bimbo aesthetic to be attractive, because we've been told our whole lives that it is attractive and it's beautiful. So, and there's something very campy about the way a lot of bimbos present themselves. Like, I would say I look pretty camp right now, and so that's fun. So, I mean, in this, when you've lived your whole life having an idea of femininity and being sexualized pushed on you, I don't think anyone can really blame you when you decide you actually like that aesthetic and decide to take it on for yourself. I don't really see that as an issue. I'm more interested in what self-described bimbos have to say than whether they wear pink, have cleavage showing, or dye their hair blonde. And I think that's sort of the point.
I was so ready to get out of the wig and wash my face that I forgot to do an outro. So this is the outro. If you got this far in the video, thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate your support. If you would like and or comment on the video, that'd be cool too. And if you don't want to do that, that's fine. Thank you just for watching. And I hope you have a good day. Bye!